free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany. Welcome to Randomness, where we talk about a little bit of everything, the deep, the weird, and the real. So take a breath, open your mind, and let's get into it. What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about something that I think is one of the hardest parts of being human, and that's accepting a reality that you didn't choose and don't want. Because life does this thing sometimes where it hands you something that just doesn't fit the story you had in your head. And the gap between what you expected and what actually is. That gap is where so much of our suffering lives. Maybe it's the end of a relationship you thought was going to be your forever. Maybe it's a health diagnosis that changes everything. Maybe it's a friendship that fell apart. Maybe it's realizing that the life you are living looks nothing like the one you imagined for yourself at this point. Maybe it's a person who turned out to be completely different from who you thought they were. Whatever it is, there's this moment where you are standing in the middle of a reality you didn't sign up for, and your whole being is just resisting it, rejecting it, screaming internally that this is not how it is supposed to be. And I want to talk about what to do in that moment, because most advice around this is some version of just accept it and move on. And I think that's genuinely unhelpful and a little bit dismissive. So let's actually get into it. First, let's talk about why acceptance is so hard, because I don't think we give enough credit to how truly difficult it is to accept something painful. A huge part of it is that our brains are not wired to accept painful realities easily. We have this incredible capacity for hope and imagination, and those are beautiful things, except when they keep us locked in a version of reality that no longer exists or never existed to begin with. Like when something painful happens, your brain does not immediately update its understanding of the world. It keeps running on the old story, the story where that relationship was still intact, where that person was who you thought they were, where your life was going in the direction you planned, and reality keeps contradicting that story. And the collision between the two is what creates so much pain. There's also this thing that happens where accepting a reality feels like agreeing with it. Like if you accept that something happened, you are saying it was okay. You're saying you're fine with it. And that feels wrong, especially when what happened genuinely wasn't okay. But that's actually a misconception about what acceptance means. There is a concept in psychology called radical acceptance, which comes from dialectical behavior therapy. And one of the most powerful ideas I've come across. Radical acceptance means fully and completely acknowledging reality as it is, without judgment and without resistance. And not because you like it, not because you wanted it, but because fighting against what's already true only causes more suffering. The pain of something happening it's unavoidable. But the suffering that comes from refusing to accept it, the ruminating, the what ifs, the constant replaying of how things should have gone differently, that suffering is optional. And radical acceptance is how you start to let go of it. But let's be really honest, getting to acceptance is definitely a process. It doesn't happen in a moment, and it almost never happens in a straight line. And most of us have heard of the 5 stages of grief, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And while those stages were originally about literal death and loss, they apply to any significant loss, the loss of a relationship, a dream, an identity, a version of yourself or someone else. And the thing about those stages is that they're not linear. You don't move through them one by one and arrive neatly at acceptance and stay there. You might be at acceptance one day and back in anger the next. You might skip stages entirely and then circle back. Grief and processing are messy and nonlinear, and that's completely normal. So if you are somewhere in that process and you feel like you should be further along by now, please let go of that timeline. There is no should when it comes to how long it takes to accept something hard. It takes as long as it takes. What tends to keep people stuck in resistance the longest is the story they are telling about what this reality means. Like, it's not just this relationship ended, it's this relationship ended, which means I'm not lovable, or which means I wasted years of my life, or which means I'll never find what I'm looking for. It's not just this dream didn't work out. It's this dream didn't work out, which means I'm a failure. You know, the raw reality is painful enough, but the meaning we attach to it, that's often what makes it feel truly unbearable. And part of the work of acceptance is separating what actually happened from the story you're layering on top of it, because those are two different things, and you have more control over the second one than you think. The relationship ended, that's a fact. What it means about your worth, your future, your choices, that's the story. And you get to examine that story and decide whether it's actually true. Something else that makes acceptance hard is that it can feel like giving up. Like, if I accept that this thing isn't going to change, I'm admitting defeat. I'm closing a door. I'm letting go of the hope that things might still turn around. And sometimes acceptance does mean closing a door. But closing one door is also how you create space for another one to open. And as long as you are pouring your energy into fighting a reality that isn't changing, you can't put that energy toward building something new. Acceptance isn't giving up. Acceptance is freeing yourself. So how do you actually get there? Because I know this all sounds good in theory, but the practice of it is a different thing entirely. And one of the most helpful things is to stop arguing with reality in your head. Like, notice when you are doing that thing where you're running through how things should have been, or replaying conversations looking for the moment where things could have gone differently, or imagining alternate timelines, and just gently redirect yourself back to what is. Not in a harsh, stop thinking about it way, but in a compassionate, I know, and this is what's actually true way. And journaling can be very powerful for this. Writing out what you're feeling, what you are resisting, what the story is that you're telling yourself about the situation. And then on the other side, writing what is actually true, what actually happened, what is actually in front of you right now. Getting it out of your head and onto paper can help you see it more clearly. Talking to someone helps, not to analyze it to death, but just to be witnessed in it, to say, this is hard and I'm struggling to accept it out loud to someone who can just hold space for that. And sometimes you need to grieve before you can accept, like fully grieve, cry about it, be pissed about it, feel the loss of what you thought it was going to be. Because acceptance that skips grieving isn't really acceptance. It's bypassing, and that always catches up with you. From a spiritual perspective, accepting hard realities sometimes involves a shift in how you understand what's happening to you. Because there's a big difference between seeing difficult things as random, cruel, pointless, and seeing them as part of something larger, part of your growth, part of your path, part of what's shaping you into who you're becoming. That doesn't mean everything happens for a reason in some neat and tidy way. I know that phrase can feel dismissive when you're in real pain, but it does mean that even the hardest things can be teachers if you're willing to ask what they're here to show you. Like, what is this situation asking me to let go of? What belief about myself or the world is this cracking open? What am I being redirected toward? Those questions don't make the pain go away, but they can give it meaning, and meaning makes things bearable in a way that random suffering just doesn't. And there's also something really powerful about accepting not just what happened, but where you are right now in the process of dealing with it. Like accepting, I'm not okay right now, and that's okay. Accepting, I'm not over this yet, and that's okay. Accepting, I'm still grieving, and I don't have it all together, and that's okay. That layer of acceptance, accepting your own state of not being okay, is actually one of the most healing things you can do. Because so much additional suffering comes from judging yourself or for struggling, from thinking you should be stronger or further along or handling it better. No, you're handling it exactly as well as you can right now, and that's enough. So remember that. And I want to leave you with this. Whatever reality you are sitting with right now that feels impossible to accept, I'm not going to tell you it'll all make sense someday, because I don't know that. I'm not going to tell you it was meant to happen, because that might not feel true to you. But I do believe that you are more capable of surviving hard things than you know. That the capacity to grieve something deeply is actually a measure of how much you loved it and how much you were willing to hope. And that acceptance, when it finally comes, doesn't feel like resignation. It feels like relief. Like you can finally put down something heavy you've been carrying for a long time. And that moment is worth working toward. All right, guys, but thank you for listening. And until next time, be gentle with yourself, honor what you're feeling, and remember, accepting reality doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It just means you are finally free from fighting it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow. And remember, keep your energy grounded, your mind open, and your curiosity alive.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.